What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. Today we got a little bit of a surprise for you on a Sunday. Usually we don't get this early, but we actually got the Fusion schedule one day early. So it's really nice, gives you a little bit of time to prepare. Currently, if you guys look in game, there's not really much going on right now. We got the Hunter's Path finishing up. This is most likely going to precede the Fusion, so probably after the Hunter's Path ends, we're probably going to see the Fusion pop up, or maybe after the Fusion warm-up. It's kind of weird that the Fusion warm-up is 1 day 18, and if the Fusion starts in 18 hours. But anyways, it's going to be pretty soon, but in any event, we still have the Fusion schedule 1 day in advance. So we're going to jump into the Fusion schedule, and we'll see how we can navigate it and yeah, make the best use of our resources, and hopefully pick up this pretty good Fusion. So guys, quick note here, I'm just back on the test server here. So quick note about the Fusion. Ogren Tribes here, and he will be blah blah blah. There he is, Stokk the Broken. So yeah, so if you guys haven't seen my showcase on him, make sure you guys check that out. I'll provide a link in the description below. But yeah, he's a really good poison applier, and then he's a poison activator. He's not a detonator, so he doesn't use up all the stacks of the poison, so he doesn't deal like seer level damage. But he's really good at basically applying and then slowly ticking it off. He can also extend. He also has continuous heal, so he has great sustain in fights. From my showcase, it didn't look like he was a very good solo champion, but he's very, very good in like a team, or if he has another champion that can activate his HP burn requirement, which makes this ability super, super strong. He also empowers your team by providing extra damage, and he goes through block damage and unkillable stuff. And generally for Fusion, he's very flexible. He has a speed in all auras battle as well. So I definitely recommend going for him if you have the resources to do so. But I think if you can't, you can probably live without him, to be honest. He kind of reminds me of Priest Ornn, where Priest Ornn has a ton of continuous heals, kind of slow in terms of applying poisons, but really strong at just keeping himself alive. So that's kind of like my comparison, but obviously Stokk here is a little bit better with the speed in all auras, all battles aura. But anyways, let's jump into the Fusion schedule. All right, so I actually finally get to use this new toy that I kind of purchased to use for these Fusion calendars. And it's this little stylus pen. So I actually didn't get a chance to use it, but let's see what we can do here. So let's see, I'm gonna draw a happy face. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that crisp, clean drawing experience. Look at that. Anyways, guys, so we noticed there's 110 total fragments in this Fusion. That means we can only skip 10 fragments. We can't skip a full summoning event unless you win a tournament, which is very, very unlikely. So that's the first thing we should pay attention to. After that, we do start with the Fire Knight and Champion Training, which is pretty much the worst start ever. Never starting on Dungeon Diver. So on day one, we probably focus on the Champion Training part. You probably just throw a bunch of, throw your energy into the, I would throw the energy into the Fire Knight. Fire Knight's going to be about 2,500 energy, depending where you farm. If you farm level 20, it's going to be about 2,200. But if you farm level 10, it's probably going to be about 2,500 energy. I wouldn't throw my energy into Champion Training on day one, just because you don't get any Dungeon Diver points. So if you want to use Bruise on day one, like you can work on your Champion Training on day one, like using Bruise or just leveling up, whatever you have time for. But free energy, I would say you go into the Fire Knight. Keep in mind, guys, like if you guys are not energy capped, you guys get 480 energy per day from free energy refills, or not refills, but like regeneration. And then keep in mind that obviously doing your dailies is very important. On average, you get about 1,000 energy per day. So that's how you manage your free energy per day. All right, so after that, you got the Dungeon Diver starting right after. It's usually 3,700 points, and that's about 5,500 points roughly on hard 10. If you're going to do like stage 20, for example, you're going to bring that energy total down a little bit, maybe like 5,200. But that's how much total energy you need to do this dungeon diver. It's going to be a 4-day event. So usually what's the best layout is when you have 2 of these tournaments lined up into the dungeon diver, which is the case this time. So you want to invest all your energy when the dungeon diver is active into these 2 tournaments. So both the tournaments will go into the dungeon diver, and then you'll have to just top it up with whatever dungeon you prefer afterwards, or champion training, for example, or campaign. So you have 3 events that contribute towards dungeon diver points, and you have them during the dungeon diver. So it's actually a really good setup. It's friendly for like double dips, triple dips. So definitely advantageous start, I would say. After that, you have the standard arena takedown. Make sure you guys do that. Artifact enhancement, you got 1, 2, 3. Standard stuff. 20 million to complete usually. But you have lots of farming events here, so you don't need like a full 20 million to start the event. If you're doing Fire Knight, Spider, and training, like campaign, you're gonna be picking up a lot of silver towards the artifact enhancement. So it's more so like silver over days, right, as opposed to one big stockpile. So don't worry too much if you're like sitting on like 5 or 6. You still have some time to grind it up over the next couple days. So the first big thing that we need to consider is the champion chase. Whether the champion chase will be easier or harder to do than the summon rush, it's going to depend on what kind of shards you have currently. We just had 2x voids last week, and then we had a summon rush this weekend. So that means this champion chase should be another 2x, and it should be 2x ancient shards, and that is pretty massive. Because for ancient shards, each shard during a 2x is worth approximately 50 points. If you're looking at about 3,000 points for a champion chase for a regular fusion, this is a rough estimate, but usually it's about 3,000 points. You only need about 60 ancient shards, or you can have mystery shards. Mystery shards is a great way to fill out some points here. Or obviously pulling, fragment fusions and all that, making it easy for yourself. But definitely the champion chase seems like 100% complete, right? Like you're gonna be doing the champion chase just because of how flexible it is to get the points, and then leaving the summon rush here at the bottom for the extra points that you can skip if you have points to skip. So this is what I would do. I would do every single event up until the champion chase, and yeah, it will, and then reevaluate. I wouldn't skip any of the first week. It looks very reasonable the first week. Like I said, 3 events during the dungeon diver is like basically as good as it's gonna get for you guys. Champion chase here looks fine. We also have dungeon diver happening alongside it with the ice golem. So be careful about this day, this Sunday. There might be no overlap with the spider and the dungeon diver, so there might just be like kind of a dead day on Sunday. So you might get free energy and there's nowhere to really put it in. Personally, I would probably make some food on Sunday if you have, low on food, for example, because there's still one more training event happening. But Sunday looks like kind of like a free day, especially if you finish Spider already towards the first dungeon diver. And then, of course, complete your champion chase. A little bit of a bummer that we don't have a training event alongside the champion chase event. Usually you can process food and mysteries a lot easier that way, so you can clear up some stash space. But this time we don't have it, unfortunately. We're going to start Monday off with the ice golem. That's perfect. That goes right into the dungeon diver, and it's going to be about 2,500 points again. Again, depending what dungeon you farm, most efficient, you're going to be spending 2,200, hard 10, 2,500. Unfortunately, for this dungeon diver, it's just ice golem. So if you're spending, 5,500 points on hard 10 for dungeon diver here, you're going to be spending all 5,500 right in ice golem, and that's a little bit of a drag. Except the ice golem event will be featuring cursed gear. So you're going to pick up some cursed gear, cursed event boost on the ice golem tournament. So maybe it's worthwhile, if you're short on cursed gear for like Hydra and stuff, it might be worthwhile to spend all the energy right into ice golem. But if you had a choice, if you're planning to skip 10 fragments, this might be a good option to skip. this might be a good option to skip, guys. So something to consider. Moving on, we have Dragon after with the training event and a third Dungeon Diver. So it's kind of good because you can kind of triple dip, right? Because then you can solo Dragon with food, works towards champion training and the Dungeon Divers. Afterwards, you're basically just going to be doing campaign to finish this off. I do recommend not going all in on as soon as it starts. It looks good as soon as it starts, right? Because as soon as it starts, you got the Dragon, you got training, and then you got Dungeon Diver happening on the same time. But I recommend not going all in on the early stages of these events because I would wait for the summon rush to pop and see what the structure of the summon rush is. It's possible that you may want to skip the 10 fragments that you're allowed to in this fusion during the summon rush, or you can maybe strategize a bit, and maybe you guys can skip the Dungeon Diver here. If you guys skip the Dungeon Diver here along with another event, then you can skip the 10, or maybe you can skip a 5 out of the Summon Rush. But either way, I would definitely look for this Summon Rush to open, reassess how many points you have, and which one of these final events you want to skip. So the problem here is that if you skip this earlier Dungeon Diver, you won't have that flexibility anymore at the end. So you have to be really careful about this second Dungeon Diver, and that's probably going to be the biggest question mark in this entire fusion, because it's kind of like the worst setup in terms of overall efficiency, spending 5,500, in a single Ice Golem event just to finish the Dungeon Diver. It feels, not very efficient, of course, but everything else about this fusion looks very straightforward, almost even friendly. Like I said, the start of it, other than the first day with the Fire Knight and the training, it's actually not too bad. Double, triple dipping along the first week. The only, like I said, the hard part is the Ice Golem with the single Dungeon Diver. Might be worth considering skipping that Dungeon Diver 2. Depends, right? Like if you're planning to do the full Summon Rush, then skipping the last 2 Dungeon Divers sounds pretty good to me in terms of an overall plan. That's probably what I'm going to do since I'm pretty flush with shards, but it's honestly going to depend on what you guys have in terms of overall resources and what you guys want to prioritize. So like I said, one option is to skip both Dungeon Divers and then complete the Summon Rush. And then the second option would be to do everything and then skip 10 from the Summon Rush. Most likely the Summon Rush will be broken up into 5 and 10 instead of a single 15. I say that like cautiously because you never know what Plarium's actually going to do. That's why I said don't do anything too hasty with the final events until you see the Summon Rush open. Okay, so wait the extra day or 2 and wait till it opens because all the other events will still be active. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this fusion schedule. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Sorry I was a little bit kind of slow and finicky, still working out how this stylus stuff works. If you guys have any comments about that, let me know. If you guys enjoy this new kind of visual enhancement, let me know in the comments below, of course. Let me know in the comments below what you guys are planning to do with Stokk the Broken. Is it just, OP with the Zog? Like, I can't really see anything else that makes him really, really crazy. I mean, if you put him in a full team, but there's lots of full teams that are really good. But yeah, let me know what you guys are doing with the fusion and all that. And hopefully you guys have a great end to your weekend. We'll see each other again at the beginning of the week. So see you guys.